It's an actual footprint from one of the workers. All the water that comes from here gets to Bradford. Old Robert McMurdo, who actually died at Scar House.
What's up, YouTubers? Today I'm in a very remote area, but it's got a lot to do with Bradford. Now I'm at Scar House and it's about 35 miles away from Bradford, and it's in the North Yorkshire area. So shortly I'm going to meet Andrew Bolt and Imtiaz, of course, and have a walk around and talk about how the water in Scar House reaches to Bradford, and we'll talk about the mechanics behind it, or briefly touch on the mechanics behind it. And I'll do my best to keep this vlog short, but I need to give it some justice because this is just like a archaeological site. It's incredible.
So we're approximately 35 miles away from Bradford itself, and this is where Bradford gets its water supply from. We're at House Reservoir, and as you can see inside me here, this is the car park. It doesn't look much at the moment, as you can see, just a few cars, a bit of wildlife flying around. But this used to be part of the village that was here, which is long gone. And if we show this image, you can see that's a before, and all these are workmen's houses for families that were here at the time of building the reservoir.
Right, there is a bit of a reflection, but we'll do our best. Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, there we go. So as you can see, they're all residential, a street down the middle, and you can see now why the car park is a little bit uneven, to say the least, because it was where all the houses dip down there.
So we have got a bit of a drizzle today. We might be fighting the elements through the video, but we'll give it a shot.
We'll do his best, a little bit of water, but that's what it's about, this video. On our trip around the old village, what you can see here is the Scar House village church, and all that remains are the stairs and the foundations. As you can see, just some concrete. Them steps are them ones there.
Yeah. So if I stand in here somewhere, approximately here.
Yeah.
So these are the steps.
Yeah. Which you can see there.
And that's where Imtiaz is standing.
The church is somewhere.
The church was just a bit further back. That's the entrance bit.
So I'm at the entrance here.
Yeah, that bit there. You're stood in that at the moment.
Okay.
So the church has a little bit of a story to it. That when they'd finished the works up here, they decided to auction off everything, and this particular building was taken back to Bradford. And it was actually on Howarth Road near Chellow Heights treatment works, and used as a church again. And it was there up until I think about the 60s, when unfortunately it was vandalised and burnt down.
What was it made of?
It was nicknamed the Tin Tabernacle.
Okay.
Because it was like corrugated sheets of iron, so it was easy to dismantle, put back together again, as were most of the buildings that we're going to talk about today. But in next to the church, they built, I don't know, no reflection, hopefully.
That's okay, that.
As you can see, it says City of Bradford on it. So here was a cinema.
Cinema.
Now, the building in the background you can see there was the actual projection booth. You can see the two little windows for where the camera and projectionist would look through. Now, it was separate and built separate to the building because the structure was wood. And I have a picture of the building. So as you can see, it's a bit sort of Wild West style, but it was used for people to come and do lantern slide shows. It was to entertain the troops, basically, anybody that was up here. But the building was, the projection booth is concrete, as you can see, separate to the wood building, because the wood building, if there was a fire, would go straight up. Now, film at that time was would ignite very easily, very dangerous. So the projection room had a separation with like an aluminium tube, so they could project through it, but if there was a fire in the projection room, they could chop the tube out of the way and it wouldn't set fire to the rest of the building. These are the entrance slabs to the actual theatre. So on the drawing it's kind of here, you just about make them out there. So we are now walking forward into the actual cinema. So this would have seated 600 people for various entertainment, like I say, lantern slides, movies, things to keep morale up, because obviously it's so desolate out here. It was keeping people entertained, keep them off the drink, things like that. So you can see now the projection booth, they're getting a bit close, and if it's still available we might be able to get inside.
Fantastic.
Okay.
What's this over here? Is this
That's,
guessing part of it? Yeah.
yeah, it's part of the foundation. If you look on the map, it's the ladies' dressing room.
What, this here?
Yep. So on the plan, that corner, ladies' dressing room, basically the toilets.
Right.
There's a hole in the ground here as well, you can see. So
Yeah.
So there'd have been a toilet in this corner here and mirrored over that side. Unfortunately it's a bit overgrown, but it would have been there as well.
Right, I'll let you lead the way.
So this would have been the film storage area, very echoey.
yeah, it is, isn't it?
There'd have been shelves in here obviously to store everything, but if you look, the door is actually like a fireproof door. So it's made out of metal. You really wouldn't think in the middle of nowhere you'd be stood in a projection room.
I know. Just
Okay, and then we go into the projection room itself. Just watch the drop.
it's a very small room, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you wouldn't have had a major camera or anything, it'd be just sort of suitcase size. If you've got people that are coming to show films, they might bring their own camera, things like that. But if you go up to you can see what the projectionist would have seen, but unfortunately the building's gone now. But it's a nice view now. You see there, that's the ventilation. Because don't forget the older machines, the magic lanterns, some of them were candle. So you'd have maybe fumes, things like that.
Yes, it's been well built, hasn't it, keeping in mind.
Yeah. Somebody came up with the idea to build it in concrete, so not to, if there was a major fire, you wouldn't lose the concert hall at the same time.
Fascinating. In fact, there's two vents, isn't there? Another one here, and the view out of the side.
There you go. That would have been the church over there, but obviously it's gone. You have to be careful with graffiti, no rude words. So now we're on another concrete plinth, and this was the canteen. So all the workmen that probably weren't staying at the hostels because they had their own facilities could come here and get meals. You can see it's quite a substantial, and again, a wood building. So we're stood literally in front of that doorway, so MTS can show you. So he's actually inside the building now.
Right,
Just gone in.
Yeah, there's nothing for lunch, unfortunately.
No, it's a bit empty. So this building's also got a bit of a history to tell, because when they were all auctioned off, this particular building was sold, and the framework of it is still in existence, and it's the village hall in Darley just in the valley. So you can actually see that form still in the shape of it down there in the village. But if we just walk along here, you can see the line of the foundations.
So obviously
There's a lot of sheep around here as well, as you can see.
Yeah, obviously had a concrete foundation, didn't it?
Yeah. But what you've got is, you see on the plan, you can see this shape. So if you follow it, you get to here. Look, there it is.
Oh yeah. So
we literally stood on that corner there.
Yeah, and it's at an angle as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, we're actually, again, to identify all these buildings, what they were and what they look like.
And it continues around here, doesn't it? All the way around.
Yeah. The outline's still there.
It's not pleasant to film, but you get the idea.
Yeah, the sheep haven't helped us, but they do mark it.
Oh,
So here, you see that?
yeah.
That is the front step. Now I don't have a picture of this building, but this was the recreation hall. And believe it or not, just here there was 2 billiard tables.
Just here?
Yeah, they had a gymnasium just over there. And the reading room just at the end, so they had a library. And all that was in this space, again, to entertain the troops. They had access.
Do you know, this reminds me of the Lister Park we did earlier on.
Yeah, it does.
Same sort of feel on it.
Yeah. So, yeah, feature-wise, it's there's not a lot left, as you can see, but that's what was standing here. Fortunately, don't have a picture of what the building looked like, but it was very similar. So, Imtiaz, if you stand there, and go into there, you're now on the veranda. So there was a veranda that went across the front, and if you just walk, well, don't fall down any holes, but you're now in the hallway in the corridor that takes you into the building.
So I can play billiards, or I can go.
Yep, gymnasium, or go reading. Yep.
Or go watch a movie.
And if you go a bit further back, you might actually still find where the toilets were, because the pipes are probably at the back here. You see how it's concrete? I would say it's probably where the toilets were, because some lavatories there. So we're at the back of the building.
So that's here, isn't it, you're saying?
Yeah. So now then, this is the important bit, the school. So this is, originally it was Angram School. So Angram, when they were building the reservoir around the corner, had its own village as well, and a lot of the buildings moved down here. So I don't know if you can spot this, but you see that little bit sticking up there. So we're actually stood where the photograph was taken. You can see the structure up in the quarry up there.
Just there. I hope it captures on the camera, but
yeah. So let's see if we can find the foundations. I mean, there's a picture underneath when I took years ago now, where you can see the foundations. So let's see if we can find them again, and we'll have a look around the school. But I have found the toilets. Look. Oh yeah. Gosh.
toilets.
Long gone.
Yeah. Ironically, that building over there, that's urinals.
This one over here?
Yeah.
Right, let's get close up.
No idea why it was built out of concrete, but it's urinals. I don't know about you, but it's definitely a room with a view. If you were to stand in there, I mean, the valley is amazing from that point.
Obviously at some point it would have had a roof, I'm sure.
No.
Oh, I didn't have a roof?
No, don't have
That's
roofs. No, they were always open with like public toilets and things like this. They were just a necessity.
I still think it's being used for facilities.
It's probably being used, yeah. But yeah, what an amazing view from the toilet. So just looking really, I think these foundations here, from what I remember, was the laundry. So it had its own laundry for, obviously there are a lot of people up here, a lot of clothes to get clean, dry, all the construction works. And then as we move along, what I think the bricks are an oven. So
Those bricks there.
yeah, so on this plan we have bakehouse. You can see the oven on in the middle of that. Again, it's hard to make out fully because obviously there's been a lot of overgrowth.
Yeah.
But
Right.
okay.
Andrew, you know the heating and the fuel. I mean, for such things as a bakery.
Yeah.
What would they have used, and how did they get it here?
Well, again, the Nidd Valley Railway was the supply to get things in and out. So from Pateley Bridge there would be a train service. So it would all be imported. A lot of people that come up here always wonder what all these features in the landscape are. As you can see, there's dips and troughs and all sorts of things going on. Well, this area was where the workmen stayed. These were their hostels. So each one of these housed so many men that were working on the site, and you could come and stay here. You pay so much rent every week, every month, and you get a room with a bed, washing facilities, toilet, but also there'd be a dining room. And what usually happened was there was a family that lived in the front of the building, and they would look after your meals and your clothing getting washed and things like that. So this is where most of the workmen would have stayed, and they would come and go. As soon as you didn't want to pay, you'd move on. So it was quite a it would see a lot of navvies moving from one place to another. I can show you roughly a side elevation so you can see why it dips. There's the landscape. There's like a central walkway up the middle, and
Oh, you mean the dip across there?
yep.
Right, yeah, just spotted it.
So we'll get into a better position in a minute, but you can see there that entrance there would have been down where the road is, and there's a central corridor with all these rooms off.
So this is, Andrew, let me ask you, is this one big building?
One big building, yes.
Right, okay, so not offshoots, like terraces, yeah.
So the
It's a large building
housekeepers,
area then, isn't it?
yeah, well the housekeepers would stay in the building at the front, and then everybody else would be staying in the rooms at the back, and they'd use the central hall to eat. Well, you can see now, if you look down there, the Workmans Hostels. It might be,
Yeah, it's quite a good good shot actually. You can just see him there.
yeah, and what I can show you now, again, is that, so you can see why it's set out like that. What we're doing now is we're just looking at the Workmen's Hostels from a different perspective. I don't know if you can see that. So you can see wood construction again. That's a picture of them actually being built at the time. And if you look, there's the corner. So you can see from the picture, roughly that there is where Imtiaz is now stood.
Right, let's get a bit closer.
Okay. We can have a walk inside if you like and see what we can find.
So that's the corner there.
Yeah, so you can see the concrete which was mixed on site here, made in the valley over there. Now this would have been, if I get my plan out, we can have a little bit of a tour around the building. This would have been a housekeeper's living room and bedroom area, just in this section here. And the concrete behind that you can see would have been a yard for drying clothes, etc. But also a wash house. So I'm stood in a wash area and clothes drying area. Okay. So then this would have been the dining hall. So food would be prepared in this section. There'd be a serving hatch here, and then you'd have tables where people sat.
So this is the staircase.
Yeah. So you come up the main corridor staircase. And we are now stood here. This would have been the garage, local garage.
All right, like a mechanic,
Yep.
local mechanic.
Yeah, you can see there growing out is service pit. Looking underneath your vehicle.
Oh yes, yeah.
It's nice and squidgy, but it's obviously been filled in at some point. But yeah, this was the invention of the car. You see, we're using them more and more to bring things up here on trucks and things. So you get your car serviced here and repaired. So there's a bit of work being done here, but this area used to be the local shops. Looking at the drawing, I can tell you roughly what shops there were. So let's have a look. We've got hairdressers, we've got greengrocers, fish and greengrocers, a drapery department, grocery department, butcher's shop, butcher's store, a boiler house and a cobbler's shop, all in this row. And again, that's the image. Unfortunately you can't see the foundations here anymore, they've been covered over, but at least the memory's still there from this photograph. These trees originally weren't here, but I don't know if you can see down there, that's the offices, the construction works. So this valley was all trains and railway lines, access to the head of the dam. So there's a lot of archaeological stuff in the tree line, but it's out of bounds, it's private land, so unfortunately we can't go and have a look. Yeah, so this is one of the original buildings at the time. It's never moved, it's of the period, everything. It's actually, it says there proposed garage, and it was the garage. So they had a lot of visitors up here, you know, like Lord Mayor of Bradford would come up here sometimes. So it was somewhere to park the cars, as well as keep an eye on them, make sure they're working. And you'll see there, it even had a room for the chauffeurs. The last copestone and the parapet.
So what do we have here?
So these are commemorative plaques for the final of opening up Sky House, the valve to let water towards Bradford. Some famous names on there of Bradford history. We have Anthony Geoffrey, Sir Anthony Geoffrey, former Lord Mayor of Bradford, but we also have William Illingworth, Justice of the Peace, and Fribba, which is the British architects, and William Illingworth is famous for being the architect of the new Victoria Cinema in Bradford City Centre. Just out of interest, this plaque commemorates the first placing of mixing of the concrete, and that's what Sky House looked like at the very start. That's the first parts of the foundations going in. I can also show you this plan, which is just out of interest. That's the expanse of the dam, and this is how they managed to get things across to the centre. They have a crane at either side called a blonding crane, which is named after a trapeze artist, French trapeze artist, because of the wires that go right across the valley, and that's how they would move things around the site before they got the top put on. And eventually they took the cranes down and used steam cranes to get backwards and forwards along a railway track. So here we have the top coat stone, which was laid by Sir Anthony Geoffrey on the finishing of the project. What I can do is show you a picture. So that's the man himself, Mr. Geoffrey, and that's the coping stone being placed. All the dignitaries, all very proud of the work. It was a monumentous day, really. What we also have though is in my photos here is also the day they turned on the water. We've got Geoffrey, William Newlands, who was the engineer, and William Illingworth, and that's the valve that he turned to turn the water on to Bradford.
So do you know the location where this valve may
Yeah,
be,
we can walk over there now and look down and see. Really good view. What you're seeing down there, Tumble Bears, where the overspill drops down. I've been here some days when it's been overflowing like Niagara Falls. It's been quite amazing. The flow of water at certain times of the year, you're actually hit by the spray that's coming back up because there's that much water flowing over. Oh, I've got the correcting on this one. I apologise, it's on the other one. The fantastic features. A bit of a view to die for as well in the distance. Right, so again, this is the picture of them turning the actual valve on to release water to Bradford. To us right here is the valve tower, the ornate castle-like tower, and if we follow the line out and come up the steps again, if you want to look over through the middle, right below us should be the point where the valve was turned on, so right at the bottom. It's probably hidden now because at the time that would be under construction. Just out of interest, these are some of the drawings of where we're actually stood now, so you can see the design. These drawings would have been huge. Right, so just out of interest, we're up near where one of the cranes used to be for the dam, and I don't know if you can see, but in the concrete there are imprints which are hobnail boots of the time, going right back to the 20s and 30s. They've got studs in, so they'll be like clogs with brass studs in. So that's an actual footprint from one of the workers from way back that time.
So there's one here and one there, Andrew, isn't there?
Yeah, you'll see there's actually a few dotted around. It's a bit like finding dinosaur prints. But these are somebody who worked on this site, stood on there all them years ago and left a signature. Okay, so we showed this earlier on in the film, the sort of the presentation bronze of the finishing of the works, and we kept pointing out Sir Anthony Geoffrey. Now what you got to think is this chap was so forward thinking, but he was lambasted at the time. He was basically told that this would be a white elephant, and the project was to make sure we didn't run out of water. Back then there were more and more mills being used, water consumption went up, and it actually kept us out of a drought. So Gady did a marvellous thing. But you've got to think how this site, all the water that comes from here gets to Bradford in some shape or form. I believe it's still no pumps involved, it's all gravity. It was designed to be gravity fed, so as it goes from here it zigzags across the countryside in different ways, through bridges, aqueducts, open cuts, and tunnels. So there's quite a huge tunnel involved, and all that water is then added to from other reservoirs along the route, and that's how it gets to Chellow Heights in Bradford. They clean the water there, and you turn your tap on, have a bath, have your cup of tea. Can't say fairer than that. So this man, Sir Anthony Geoffrey, who was a Lord Mayor in the 20s, should be remembered. So what we're going to do is, you've seen the name, you've seen the project, now we're going to go to Undercliff Cemetery and we're going to go and see the man. Okay, so this is the village of Middlesmore, and we've come up here just to show you one thing. Obviously people came, worked at Scar House, but sadly some didn't go back home, some died. And through my research from years ago, I found that there is a 12-year-old boy here that's buried, Robert McMurdo. So we thought, just as a bit of respect, we'd come up and just say hello really, and show you. This is Middlesmore churchyard, which is absolutely stunning, and the views are amazing. So hopefully you'll just enjoy this little snippet. Okay, so this is the grave of 12-year-old Robert McMurdo, who actually died at Scar House Reservoir at the works. So he was part of, obviously, the families that lived up there. He's the only person I've actually found locally buried in this churchyard, which is about a couple of miles away from the village that we've been to today. So yeah, there you go. We don't know what he died of, but obviously there was different things going on up there. A lot of people think construction related, but because it was a village, normal things were going on. There were people being born, people died naturally, there were accidents, there was a bit of all sorts of things. But we do have with us a few details that Imtiaz might be able to read off of some of the people that didn't make it, even though they were there for so many years.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at this document, and there's women, children, men. You know, some of them have died from bronchial asthma. Another died from heart failure. James O'Sorden. Another lady died at the age of 29. Another sad tale is Patrick Clark, 1927, died. Age 29, temporarily went insane, found hung on a crane jib.
Yeah, which would have been on the actual dam. So he committed suicide whilst either went out during different hours, you know, when they weren't working, and decided enough was enough. But you know, you've seen how isolated it is up there. Something triggered that. So yeah, sad things. But I think there's a chap in there that retired at quite an age. It might be on the next page. Let's have a look. There was one guy that actually
85 years
there
old.
We go, is he
Yeah,
at the bottom
Charles,
there?
This is 1931. A chap called Charles Foster Pincher died 85 from D Hostel, died while staying with friends in Keighley. Retired 3 weeks earlier.
Yeah. So he was still working at that age, went to see friends and then dropped dead. So, but he stayed in one of the hostels we showed you earlier, so Hostel D. So now you're getting this feel of who was actually staying there.
Yeah.
He would have paid, I don't know, a penny a week to have a room, and just thought he'd go and see somebody, and obviously it was too much.
So Andrew, final stop. What a journey.
So yes, here we are. We've come back to Bradford. We've done the reverse 35 miles and we're now in Undercliff Cemetery, and this is the grave of the great man Sir Anthony Geoffrey. As you can see, it's quite a memorial.
Again, we have a QR code there if anybody wants to use a smartphone for more information. And
again, that's the photo we showed earlier, but you can see from House Reservoir to Undercliff Cemetery. Edgar was his son.
right,
The stone, it seems to be similar to what we saw.
Well, this is the thing. It can't. I don't know how we will prove it, DNA and all that. But that stone, I would love to think it was quarried up at Scar House. That it had a piece kept for this purpose.
yeah,
But it's proving it. But,
it makes sense, but like you said,
it's a difficult one to prove without any paperwork. But it is a very similar consistency to what we've been looking at.
Yeah, the style and the greatness of it as well, isn't it? It's big and
held in high esteem, you know.
Bold statement, isn't it?
Yeah.
wow, what a day. Big thank you to Andrew Bolt for spending some time showing us how the water gets from 35 miles from Scar House to Bradford, where our old Bradfordians enjoy the Yorkshire water. See you in the next vlog. Peace out.